All right, so today's presentation is going to be a combination of career advice and life strategy, okay? Strategy is taking a competitive advantage that you have and exploiting that where other people are not taking advantage of that resource or of that edge that you have. When it comes to life, basically, it's about focus and intention and being deliberate. So we'll talk a little bit about life strategy, and then we'll talk about some career pro tips and advice from the musings of your professor, as well as some anecdotal stories and also some data. So with that, one thing that we've been taught ever since we were children from the very beginning is you have to have purpose in this life. What is your purpose, okay? And I'm not talking about the ultra existential, religious, or cosmic purpose of why, where the universe exists. No. I'm talking about the individual. I'm talking about, what do you want to have said at the end of your life? What's the impact if you care about legacy? What would that legacy be? But ultimately, what do you want to do while you're here is the gist of it, okay? And it shouldn't be something you check off. It's more of a direction or a lens with which you view and interpret your decision making through. So let me give you this example. For me personally, it's to destigmatize mental health. That's one of the biggest purposes that I have in my life. It bothers me to no end that if I sprain my ankle, or even if I get a burn or something like that, I'm usually approached with sympathy and compassion and understanding. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to walk for 2 weeks. Oh, that sucks, man, yeah. But if I come in and I express, I just had one of the most stressful weeks of my life, I've entered a depression cycle, or this situation evokes so much anxiety in me that I've been on the edge of a panic attack and I just need to de-stress and relax, that's viewed with like shame and judgment and like, are you just mentally weak? Or is there something wrong with you? Like, whoa, like there's so much negative stigma and narrative around mental health challenges when literally every human goes through them. And there should be no judgment for when we break an ankle or when we suffer an injury. There's always compassion and sympathy for that. But rarely it feels like that with mental health. Let me give you, I lost my train of thought there. Okay, but point is, with mental health, that's like one of the big things. That's where I was going. I was going to say, when it comes to couples, marriage and family therapy, that's, I own Utah Marriage and Family Therapy Clinic. That's another purpose that I care a ton about, destigmatizing couples therapy. And let me give you this example. If I were going to train for a marathon, I want to run a marathon. I want to get a good time, maybe around 5 hours, 4.5, okay? And right out of the gate, I hire a personal trainer to do it. Is that viewed as weird? No? Is that pretty normal? Pretty regular? Okay. Put a pin in that. When people ask me, Charles, when should a couple start going to therapy? Most people assume it's when fighting frequency reaches critical mass, or there's an event that happens, like an affair or something else in the relationship, and then that's when you start going to therapy. But my answer is never anywhere near that. My answer is always premarital. Premarital is when couples should go to couples therapy. And usually the reaction I get is surprise at that, but go back to the marathon training, okay? If I'm training for a marathon, something I've never done before, I don't know what stretches or exercise are optimal. I don't know how to prevent injury. I don't know what type of equipment and gear that I'm gonna need. And I need somebody who can customize my training regimen for my age, my gender, my height, my gait, my cadence. All of these things need custom coaching. And so it is with marriage or any serious relationship. For most of us, Marriage, it's our first time. We've never done it before. We've seen other people's marriages, but I've seen other people run marathons. Doesn't mean I know how to do it. So why not have a professional who has a master's degree and years of experience in helping you launch this marriage off on the right foot? Seems obvious to me, but the narrative is the opposite. Oh, couples therapy before you're married? Should you be even getting married? If you have that big of problems, like, shouldn't you not even call it? No, that's not what it's about. Communication, conflict resolution, just living with somebody where you've never had that type of relationship dynamic. In-laws, jeez. For those of you who are married, you get it. And so having a professional help manage that growth. Anyway, I'm getting long-winded with this, but the point is, I care very passionately about that. Destigmatizing mental health, destigmatizing couples therapy, because I want to alleviate unnecessary suffering in people. That's really the bottom line. So whatever your purpose is, it can be kind of broad and a little bit enigmatic in that way. It can be conceptual. But once you identify that purpose, you need to come up with directives. Now, directives are objectives that are check-offable that help you fulfill your purpose. So for example, for me, it was to open Utah Marriage and Family Therapy Clinic, a mental health clinic that provides therapeutic services to people. And ideally and hopefully, it's just that one, okay. Ideally and hopefully, they will spread that message of the treatment they received and how great it was for them, and that message can spread. So what are some directives that you can create for the purpose that you have for your life? Maybe it is graduating. That's check-offable. Maybe it's starting a career in a certain industry or profession. That's check-offable. But your directives have to create value, okay? I could start a nonprofit and say, I'm going to destigmatize mental health. But if that doesn't provide actual value to other people, I'm not going to be able to sustain that nonprofit organization. So when I say value, in the context of my clinic, we help couples resolve conflict, repair relationships. We help individuals who are struggling with mental health through EFT and talk therapy, systems theory, Gottman methodology, all these different tools. We provide value to people, and in return of that value we provide, we receive resources. When I say resources, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Money. Exactly right. Money. But it's not just money. Resources also mean time, connections, tools, and literal resources. Okay? But that's the cycle. Okay? I create a directive that creates value for other people, and I receive resources in return. That's strategic life. That's being deliberate. That's being intentional with how you move through your professional careers. And once you get resources, you can reinvest them into the same directive to expand the influence, or you can invest it in other directives. For example, I'm getting resources with my one clinic. Maybe I want to open up in St. George. Maybe I want to open up in Salt Lake or Ogden. Maybe I want to go international. I could do that. Maybe, though, I don't want to be so linear with it. Maybe I'll start a podcast with my wife, who is a marriage and family therapist, and the two of us will spread our message about destigmatizing mental health, which we do. It Takes Two, that's the podcast we host. We talk about pop culture, current events, and we do like an entertaining, lighthearted aspect of it, because our clinic is very serious. It is much more structured, scientific. So this is a more lighthearted way to enter into the entertainment sphere, so to speak, and to start that conversation to normalize talking about mental health. We did, at Christmas time, we did How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and we psychoanalyzed the Grinch, and what was the source of his psychopathy, or his isolationism, and all, maybe his PTSD, it was fun. It was lighthearted, it was entertaining, but also educational and informational. And so maybe that's what I do with the resources that I make. Or maybe we say, let's take time, energy, and resources and go get our PhDs. Because if we get PhDs, we get better cred, we can publish books and journals and articles, and so more people are willing to listen to us because we have those credentials. Maybe that's the route to go. But no matter what you decide to do, that's how I suggest you structure your life strategy. What's my purpose? What objectives through directives can I check off? Do they create value for other people, and in turn I receive resources? And then what further directives do I want to invest in order to accomplish and achieve and fulfill my purpose? Again, it's about deliberate living, not just allowing life to happen to us, hoping that things work out for the best. There is not a lot that we can control in our universe, candidly. There's a lot of factors, but what we can control is our intent, our direction, and our focus. But this is the thing that I often hear from students. I don't know what my purpose should be. Like, what if I pick the wrong one? Or maybe this isn't the best purpose for me. And I get that. We're afraid of, if I set my purpose as X, what if Y would have led to greater success and happiness or greater impact? And I'm here to tell you something that I have been telling you throughout the whole semester, okay? Through skill transferability, the same applies to this. The only wrong decision is no decision. And the other reality is your purpose will evolve and change over time. The world adapts, evolves, innovates, changes, and we have to evolve and adapt and change with that as well. And so it's okay to be, to not have a committed relationship with your purpose, but to try it out. Because the truth is, there is no better. There is no right or wrong. When it comes to this arena, it is non-binary. It's not this or that. It just is. Outcomes are how we measure whether we like what's happening. So if I choose a purpose and I choose some directives and I don't like the outcomes, that doesn't mean I didn't benefit from it. That doesn't mean that I'm not learning. Haven't we talked about this all semester? Isn't it just as valuable to know what you don't want to do in a career as much as it is that you do know? Because I'll tell you this, some professionals who have stayed on one track their whole career, they always have that doubt in their mind. What if I did something else? That grass is greener mentality. But you have somebody who's been in 5 different industries and they found the job that they love, they know with conviction because they know what they don't love. Does that make sense? And so it is with this. If you don't like the outcomes of your purpose or directive, well, you just got a bunch of invaluable data about yourself and your life that you can use to drive further decisions to help you get the outcomes you are looking for in life. So don't be afraid of picking the right one. Commit to one, measure the outcomes, and adjust if you don't like it. It's actually just what I talked about. On the subject of this idea, is I've had some pushback before in regards to values. They say, well, Charles, my purpose is derived from my values, and my values won't change. So I do want to commit to this one thing. And I'll say, are you sure about that? Are you sure that your values don't change over time? There was a study done of 50,000 people, one of the largest studies ever done, over 40 years. And they asked them throughout their lives what was most important to them, what were their values. And there was a standard distribution bell curve, and the overwhelming majority of them had significant changes to their values over time. Let me give you this example, okay? Maybe you'll say to yourself, okay, I don't know, Charles, lying, I would never lie. I would never steal. Those are 2 values that I won't break. I will never lie and I never steal. And then I would ask you, okay, have a kid and then talk to me about that conviction you have. A few of you are chuckling. Well, first off, I guarantee you're going to lie to your kid to protect him in some way, shape, or form. And I guarantee you're going to steal their Halloween candy when they have way too much and they're going to get sick off of it. But also, when you look into that child's eyes and think about what could possibly happen where, would you lie to protect your child? would you steal to make sure that that kid had enough food to eat? I promise you, the circumstances and the context were right. You'd lie and steal all day for your kid to make sure that they were provided for and taken care of. And so context matters. Circumstances matter. Our values are malleable, and that's okay. That's part of being human. That's one of the great reasons why humans are so innovative and technologically revolutionary. If we stayed in our own huts with sticks and fire pits and just were like, yeah, this is how we value this life. We value how we've always done things. We would never have the massive amount of futurism that we have now. The conveniences, the luxuries, the quality of life. And so it's okay. And I encourage and invite you to embrace that uncertainty, to not cling too tightly to what you value, but to hold loosely and say, you know what, I do feel pretty strongly about this thing. And you know, for the most part, it's done right by me, but maybe in the right context or circumstances, I should be a little flexible. Or maybe it'd be more advantageous and more helpful to more people in my family if I did things a certain way. I'm not telling you to go out and lie, cheat, and steal to get you and your family what you deserve. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is be open-minded to how your values might change. And that will help you get out of decision paralysis. Because as we mentioned before, I'll go back to it. The worst choice you can make is no choice. As long as you are making intentional choices and collecting data on the outcomes, you are progressing and you are, in essence, succeeding in your life strategy. On that note, switching gears just a touch, make sure that when you are going through life that you find balance in everything. It's so easy to drown ourselves in busyness and productivity in order to feel good about ourselves. But the reality is human beings are not wired to work 10 to 12 hours a day, okay? Anthropologists have been studying tribes that exist currently and contrasting them with our archaeological record of humans for the past hundreds of thousands of years. Let me ask you this. How many hours a day do you think our ancestors in their tribes worked per day? Hunting, gathering, repairing structures or building structures, any of that. How many hours a day do you think they worked?
4 to 6.
4 to 6? Higher, lower?
Say like 9 to 10.
9 to 10? Yeah, okay. The answer is 4 to 5. They would work for 4 to 5 hours, and then what do you think they would do the rest of the day? The rest of those 16 hours that they had? Sleep, rest, play, dance, sing, socialize, create culture, and engage in their community. In a 24-hour day, you get 8 hours of sleep, sure, 4 hours for work, and the rest of that time, historically, was spent building community, engaging in the things that made us curious and excited. Again, that's what led to our innovation and our evolution as a species. And I think we should try and honor that more often. So when you intuitively feel like laying on the couch and gaming or binging Netflix, I say you honor that feeling. And don't you dare shame yourself or judge yourself and say, oh, that's lazy. I'm just, this, that, or the other. No. I think it's important to find that balance in all things. When you need a break, take a break. If you've spent a lot of time by yourself, go out and spend some time with others. And if you spent a ton of time with others, try to find some time for yourself. Apply that to all things. When you're working, make sure you're finding time to rest. Make sure to have fun and to play. We are a playful species and a curious one. And so I invite you to always prioritize your needs, which do include rest and play. Okay? Remember that you are human. You are flawed, and I'm going to tell you something that's a cold, hard fact. It's one of those hard to swallow pills. You will hurt the ones you love. It is inevitable. You cannot have relationships with people and be in close proximity and spending extended periods of time with them without inevitably hurting them. And I'm telling you, that's okay. Because what good people do after they hurt one another is they repair and they forgive. The thing that we often struggle with is if we can forgive others, we oftentimes have a really difficult time forgiving ourselves or extending grace to ourselves to say, you know what? I really sucked today. I was pretty rude. I was kind of a jerk. And that's okay. I probably didn't eat or get enough sleep. I should say sorry to my coworker tomorrow. Great. Accept that, embrace that, and allow others the same courtesy. We are humans, and life is hard and confusing. And so give yourself permission to be human. If you don't get an A in a class, that's fine. Okay, I promise it won't have that big of an impact. Especially when you take 3890 and you realize there are other ways to get into PhD programs. Okay? Have compassion for yourself and realize that you are built into you a flawed and imperfect person. And that's great. That's totally normal. Next, success is relative. If you are chasing someone else's definition of success, you will never arrive at it. And on that note, success is never a destination. You never arrive at success. Case in point, me in this job. Okay? I thought for sure that when I got hired as a full-time faculty member, I would feel successful. Just across the board, I did it. Charles did it. He pulled it off. He doesn't have a PhD. He got to be a full-time instructor. I started teaching at UVU when I was 31. You'd think I'd feel pretty successful with that. But you know what I didn't feel? Successful. I felt imposter syndrome out the wazoo. I'm connecting with my peer faculty who have 15 years, 20 years on me. They're multi-bajillionaires. I felt so unsuccessful compared to them until I reminded myself of this. And honestly, my wife, who helped remind me of this. That success is not only not a destination, but it's relative and defined by what we define individually. The reason I am a professor is because I am extremely effective at my career strategy. It has worked. And the dynamism and the charisma and the presentation skills that I have were something that my department head wanted. And because of the relationship and networking I had done with him and the skills and opportunities that I took advantage of to demonstrate my skills, those are the reasons that I am successful. And I am in a state of success because that is how I define it in my mind. There is no arbitrary amount of money in your bank account that will make you feel successful. There is no job title. There is no network or connection or relationship you can have. It will not. Oh, I'll feel successful when I'm married and have kids. Doesn't work that way. I promise you. It is something you have to define for yourself and be in a state of. And I hope within that definition, you allow being human. You allow balance and play and rest into your definition of success. Moving on, career tips, okay? Let's set aside all that super big life conceptual stuff and let's pick back up the career strategy, which is why you all took this class. And it will be a little bit of a teaser for 3890 when you take that, hopefully your last semester. It'll be the most beneficial to you if you take 3890, Marketing 3890, your last semester. So just gonna throw that out there. But can any of you guess what I'm gonna tell you based on this image? Yep, networking. That's exactly right. This is the number one predictor of your career success, the biggest correlation, everything. Building relationships is how we succeed in this world from a career perspective, okay? So never stop networking. This semester, I made about 40, I think probably between 30 and 40 professional connections while I was teaching. Okay? I'm out there doing it with you. And let me tell you this, the more that I do it, the easier it becomes. You get used to that awkwardness. You kind of get used to that clunkiness, and you get over that fear of rejection. Because first off, most people do genuinely want to talk to you about their life. And that's what most networking is just about. Just connecting with people, relating with them, sharing interests, and establishing a relationship in that way. Okay? So keep doing it no matter what. Oh, but Charles, isn't that politicking? I hate politics. Hard to swallow pill number 2. You'll have to politic in your life. I'm sorry. It is just part of business. It's part of academics. It's part of just about any place that has multiple people a part of it, okay? But let me give you a reframe that might make it a little bit more palatable. Instead of viewing it as politicking, view it as I want to genuinely build relationships with people who have shared values and shared interests. That's easy. We want to do that all the time anyway. And so as you build those relationships with shared values and shared interests, you help one another out. It's mutual synergy. I have these skills and resources, you have those skills and resources, let's trade. If I'm great at doing nails and you're great at doing hair, I'll do your nails, you'll do my hair, if I had any. It's a great trade. Everybody wins. That's all politics really is. So reframe it as building relationships and trading value. And on this, I want to show one of my favorite clips from Parks and Rec, where Leslie Knope, who is a government politician, is trying to get the police department to volunteer at the Harvest Festival, which is meant to save the city. But instead of being able to ask for the favor for the Harvest Festival, one of her closest friends, Ron Swanson, gets tangled up with his ex-wife, Tammy, and gets thrown in jail. And so we're going to watch this play out. Love that. Love that clip so much. And if you have watched Parks and Rec, it hits different because it's so true. Leslie Knope probably won't end up being president of the United States because she uses her favors to help other people instead of herself. But what an amazing example of that purity through politicking. That using favors, helping the police department in order to help her friends and the community. And there's just as I say, rising tides lift all ships. And so it is in the business world, in your career. So think about it that way. How can you help other people through the relationships that you create? All right, moving on. Sorry. Companies are not family, okay? They're not family. Any culture or team during training or onboarding, and they're like, here at Adobe, we're a family. You should smile and be like, okay, cool. But inside your heart and your mind, you know that's total BS because this is what you do for family. Mom calls, hey, it's Sunday night. Can you pick me up from the airport? Absolutely, I'd love to. If your boss calls you Sunday night and says, hey, can you pick me up at the airport? You say, hell no, hang up, send them an email and say, only call me during business hours, thank you. Okay? Companies are not families. It is an exchange of value set within a contract. And just like any good relationship, you should have healthy boundaries with that relationship. Because let me tell you, I promise you, companies will not treat you like family. Spotify, last year. Who loves Spotify Wrapped? I do. Awesome. I show you all the stats, all the cool stuff, the connections. Super, love Spotify Wrapped. That was December. 2 weeks after Spotify Wrapped dropped, Spotify laid off 10,000 employees a week before Christmas. Is that what you do to family? Help them with this giant project, Wrapped, to boost their visibility, give them way more exposure, way more profit, and then the moment that project drops, bye-bye. Why? Because when they report quarter one, what they did in quarter four of the previous year, it's going to look just that much better on their financials because they laid off 10,000 people. Companies are not family. They are an exchange of value. And we use that exchange of value to get the resources we need to help us fulfill and accomplish our purpose. Sometimes there are people within those organizations that we can trust and build relationships with that might feel like friends or family, but I just caution you to always be wary of what you are willing to do or not do for a company. And on that note, do not be the number one top sales performer or just number one performer, period, in your company and your team. Hot take, I know. Because everybody everywhere else is like, oh, you should try your best to overachieve and do your best to be number one. But let me give you a scenario, okay? Rob, my friend Rob, is my number one sales guy. He does so many sales, he's 20% of my team of 8 people. In fact, he covers the poor performance of 2 of my other employees. But because Rob is so good, I look great. My team is one of the top performing teams because of Rob. Rob asks for a promotion because obviously he deserves it. He's been doing this for 2 years. And I say, Rob, you're killing it, man. Absolutely, let's get you a promotion eventually. Then I go to my meeting with my VPs, my higher ups, and they say, how is your team performing, Charles? And I say, phenomenally. We're up 20% over the last 2 years. We're one of the top performing teams. Great job, Charles. Here's a promotion and a bonus for you. Sweet. I can't let Rob go. Rob is my most valuable asset. I can't let him get promoted because then I don't look as good. My opportunities are dependent upon Rob's performance. So you know what I'm going to do? Everything in my power to keep Rob where he is. I'm going to give him a trip to Cancun. I'm going to give him a plasma screen TV. Hell, I'm going to give him a $10,000 bonus for all the work he is doing. And I'm going to thank him, handwritten cards, everything. But every time he brings up promotion, oh, the economy, I'm not sure, there's a position for you just yet. Just hang on a little longer. We'll get you that. Okay? Instead of being the number one, be in the top 20% of performers and spend the extra 10 hours being an overachiever that you would have spent making calls, and instead build relationships with the boss and the boss's boss in the company. Okay? Because if Rob spends 10 hours a week talking to me and my higher ups during lunch break or after hours or whatever, and we're building that friendship and relationship, my boss is going to be like, Rob's a great candidate for our next promotion. He should be the next sales manager. So now Charles can't do anything to get in the way because then I'm hurting my own capital in the eyes of my superiors. So the better strategy is this. Be great at what you do, but don't be the best. And spend the time that others do to be the best connecting with other people. I promise you it is significantly more effective. And I can't tell you, we don't have time for it. I could tell you 8 stories off the cuff of Rob in real life. Happens all the time. Okay? Which leads me to my next point. Anytime that you are asked to do something outside of your normal roles, duties, and responsibilities, say yes only once. And let them know that this is the one time you're willing to do it. And if they want you to do it in the future, tell them it needs to be in writing and that they need to give you a raise and a job title change. Let me give you an example. I'm a social media marketer, okay? I post on Instagram and TikTok. That's all I'm supposed to do. And I get a phone call from my boss who says, Charles, our lead photographer is out sick or they got in a car crash or something. But we've got to do the photo shoot. Can you do it? I know you have a DSLR camera. Can you do the shoot? And my response is, listen, a convention will tell you, absolutely, any opportunity I'll take happily to show that I'm of value. No. We got to play hard to get. A little bit like dating. So I say, you know what? Honestly, boss, I'm super busy right now. I've got a lot on my plate. My normal job would get in the way of me doing photography. However, I know that this is a really important situation for you, and this is an emergency. It's not your fault. I will do this for you one time. But if you ever need me to do this in the future, I expect a pay raise and a job title change. And if they're like, that's so greedy of you, that's so selfish of you, just be like, okay, sorry. Looks like you need to find another photographer. Okay, sorry, all right, listen. One time, yeah, just this one time, Charles, just do this photography shoot this one time. Okay, great, I'd be happy to. Click, and you know what we're gonna do? We are gonna do the best damn photo shoot that company has ever seen. We're gonna go all out. Not only are we gonna go and take the most exceptional photos we've ever taken, we're actually gonna hire somebody on Fiverr or Upwork to do a better editing job than we're even capable of, and then we're gonna submit those photos. Because you know what's gonna happen? Talk. The manager's gonna see how phenomenal of a product you produced. And the higher ups might be like, whoa, Charles's photos are even better than Jimmy's. What? Charles should be our photographer, not Jimmy. So guess what? Manager rolls up. Hey, the photos you submitted, phenomenal. We would love you to do more. I'd love to. Boy, I'd love to provide more value to the company. But the thing is, I don't have enough time. I'm busy doing my normal roles and responsibilities, and for what you're paying me for, I easily need 40% more. So I'll do this next photo shoot, but I need it in writing, I need a deadline, and I want HR CC'd on it. That's how you advance in a company and make sure that you get paid what is due you. And let me just say this. Companies are incentivized to downplay how valuable you are. Don't let it happen. Especially you, ladies, because historically, you are less likely to have conflict with men in the workplace than men are. Men are usually a lot more comfortable confronting and being like, hey, I'm worth this, and battling it out in negotiations, where women are a little bit more conflict averse. I encourage you to fight for the value that you have, because you are extremely valuable. And the skills that you provide should never be diminished in the sake of profit. So you fight for what you need. And men, be aware of that reality. Empower and encourage women in the workplace to fight for their value. And when you're in those leadership roles, you better give them what they're worth. Don't let that perpetuity of profit over people persist. On that note, it's okay to ask for promotions. Again, managers might shame you away from it, or they might try and tell you, no, that's not how we do things here. Say, what do I need to do to get a promotion? Get it in writing, get metrics, have a timetable, etc. For example, I want to be on the mergers and acquisitions team. Great. You need to reach these metrics, you need to present this many times, and your team needs to achieve X performance. And I say, great. How much time do I have to do that? 6 months? Yes, great. I will write everything that my manager and I just talked about in an email, send it to them, send it to his boss, and send it to HR. Because 6 months from now, guess what happens when you go to your boss and say, hey, I met every metric. Oh, I don't remember that conversation we had 6 months ago. We had nothing in writing. You're just doing your job, what you're supposed to, which you did a great job. Here's a plasma screen TV. And you get stuck in the place that you don't deserve to be, doing more work than what you're being paid. I know that sounds cynical, but I've just seen it way too many times. Fight for your value and defend it and protect it. Have healthy relationships with your work. Be willing to do things and provide value outside of those roles. Just make sure that you are getting compensated equitably. Okay. Let's wrap up with a final anecdote. All things in life come to an end. Okay? The worst times will end. The best times will end. The darkest hours that I have faced in my life, I did not want to live anymore. I would flirt in my mind with the idea of launching myself in front of a passing bus, so that way it would look like it was an accident, so my friends and family wouldn't suffer. But because of the circumstances that I was in, I did not want to keep living. And I had a very, very good friend and mentor hang out with me. We stay up till like 3 a.m. talking. And in the midst of that conversation, he said, listen, Charles, this stuff you're going through, these circumstances that are causing this to happen, they're going to end eventually. And I don't know what it was about him framing it that way, but the idea that what I was feeling would come to an end, that there was a timetable almost for it, it filled me with an optimism and a hope that that pain would eventually end, and it did. So in your hardest moments, find comfort in that. The hardest class you've ever taken, it'll come to an end. The grief of loss, the pain of failure, all of that ends eventually. And then on the flip side, when you're in your highest seasons, the moments of greatest success and victory and achievement, drink deeply from that cup. Be present in that moment and savor it, because what comes up must come down. All things come to an end, including this class, which is hard. It's been fun building the relationships that I have with you and learning from you, connecting with you. I'm grateful for you, and I hope that we can stay connected. So, with that, here are some ways that we can stay connected. Obviously, you have my LinkedIn. That's my professional Instagram. I actually just joined BeReal, so if you want to add me up on BeReal, I'm cool with that. And then for those of you who like to game, I have a gaming server on Discord. So if you want to add me up there, we can game it up. But I really appreciate the connections that we've made in this class, and I hope that you find the value in the activities we've done. That you can see that by building relationships, networking, investing in yourself, believing in the skills that you're developing, and transferring that and exploring with that and being intentional with your life will ultimately get you what you want most in life. Happiness, fulfillment, success, all those things. So, thank you all. Hope to see you in 3890.